All right, welcome to Double Fries No Slaw, the morning show. It's Tuesday morning. Let's move this over just so we're a little better angled. The morning show after Florida State loses to SMU, and they've got Clemson coming up this week. So I know I wonder what the excitement level is. I wonder what the concern level is. Is there even concern anymore? Have people moved completely on? Brock Glenn starting this weekend, kind of hinted at that being the case, and then talked about that yesterday in a video. DJU hurt, and it's probably time to move on anyway. I did enjoy the memes. I think Aaron had one, like, why do you keep giving me your toughest battles? Brock starts against the ACC championship, Georgia, and now Clemson. I don't really know what to say, man. Best of luck out there against Clemson this weekend. At least it's not on the road. Appreciate Decadent Coffee. We'll talk about them in just a moment. Decadent Dessert Bar and Coffee and Dessert Bar. A couple locations: Modesto, California; Warner Robins, Georgia; Fulton, Maryland. If you're anywhere near any of those, make sure that you go check them out. I will talk about them in a little bit, but I had several of you reach out and ask to be connected with their owner, Patrick, who was on last week, and so that was good stuff. If you want to be connected at all for any reason, business, work, I had a couple of vets reach out to try and connect with him. Make sure that you reach out to me, and I'm happy to make an introduction. All right, we're going to do some callers today. Actually, we can just jump right in. I've got my buddy Austin on here first. We'll get him, and we'll get going. So Austin, unmute. We'll just jump right in with the callers. If you want to call in, there's a link in the description. I'm sure that Harlan threw one in the show notes as well. If you follow me on social media, you can shoot me a message on Twitter, and I'm happy to happy to shoot you a link there as well. But let's get after it. Want to call in? Great. If not, it's really okay. You don't have to. You can just listen to us. Austin, what's up, man? Harlan, I don't hear him. Oh, he jumped out and jumped back in, so you might have to reset it. Austin, you in now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, cool. How you doing, bud?
Maybe. My thing's tweaking.
You got that Metro PCS internet and upgrade your life. All right, we'll go to James. We'll do James and let Austin get his crap figured out, Harlan. Dude, my mouse isn't working. James, how's it going, bud?
What's up, TJ? How's it going, man?
Oh, man, just another wonderful morning. But not bad, really. Like, the team's not very good, so that's fine. But not going too bad, though, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it this morning as I was getting the kids ready for school, right? And, listening to Mike's press conferences over the past couple days, I'm a director of cybersecurity at my company. And I'm always fired up, and I know my team looks to me as a focal point of strength. But looking back at it, the times that I feel like I've been the most disheartened is when we're forced to do things we know might be good for the business, but not be great from a cybersecurity perspective, right? And my team can see right through that. And that leaves me with the thought, like, is there more behind the scenes that's forced Mike's hand not to make certain changes? And not just the quarterback. I mean, I think it's bigger than that. But because I think we've always watched the Noles, right? And since Mike's been here, he's always been fiery. And I know of other people, Corey Clark and them have made statements about they haven't seen him so dejected. But I just don't think he forgets who he is. He's just a fiery guy. I've met him. I've golfed with him in Tampa a bunch of times, and he's always who he is. But to see how he's kind of taken on this new persona, I almost feel like there's something more behind the scenes force in his hands. And I really hope that's not the case. And I'm not saying it's an NIL thing. I'm not saying any of that. But I do believe there is something more there. And for me, the other point I really wanted to make this morning, so I'll leave you with that one. But the other point I wanted to make, I've talked to you about it, during the week. This is a very unpopular, decision for some, but we can point to the Fullers and the Randy Shannons, but at some point we got to start asking questions about Alex Atkins. Like I look back at it, and our offensive line has not performed. Period. Since he's been there, I think he's a great guy with his big man camp, and I think he brings a lot of juice. Probably really good on the recruiting trail when he's not giving people rides and cars. But at the end of the day, like, what does he bring? Like, and if he's the OC, we know he doesn't call plays. Is that a detriment to us? Like, we should probably have somebody else in there that can call plays and take that away from Mike and let Mike just focus on the program, because I think Mike structures a program very well. So, I'll leave you with that, TJ, and get your thoughts.
Yeah, so I'll do them in reverse order. So yeah, I certainly there is, and it's hard because you do like Atkins personally, and so you're like, you're not trying to be a jerk, but yeah, like offensive line development, I think Atkins deserves credit for like taking the offensive line from like really bad to like serviceable or average to even like maybe slightly above average. A couple, like in 2022, 2023, like a pretty good offensive line, like not elite, but pretty good. And when he got here, it was like disaster class bad, like worst in the ACC bad. And so I do think there is some credit for that. But like since then, he's not shown the ability to continue to improve it. And if you think about it, a lot of the really good offensive line play that we've seen has been from the portal. Going back to Gibbons, I mean, your best offensive lineman this year was Richie Leonard before he went down, and he was like one of UF's worst. Like I had UF people tell me like, nope, we're not going to miss him at all. We're really good at guard. Like we're worried about the tackles. Like Leonard wouldn't help. They brought in Casey Roddick, Jeremiah Byers, who's the kid that Bless Harris. That has been a pretty consistent thing. Like the better off. Now Washington was really good last year, but I mean, 4-star after 4-star after 4-star, not out there making an impact. Lucas Simmons was very highly rated. I mean, he got hurt. Julian Armello was a 4-star. He's now in year 3 and getting in when Florida State's down by 30 against SMU. And so, yeah, there's a lot of questions that should probably be asked about the development at that position. I think the other side of it that you bring up is, well, you don't necessarily need like if Mike's going to call plays and be essentially the offensive coordinator, then you don't need like a Kenny Dillingham, like a guy that like can run it all by himself. Like it's okay to put Atkins in that, but it's almost probably to the point of saying like we probably do need to get a true offensive coordinator in. It's kind of what the UF fans have been asking for 2 years under Napier. Like, dude, get an OC so that you can focus on the other things. Mike's play calling looks weird this year. It looks different this year. It looks disjointed. And I mean, you could say like, well, it's because DJ's not good and the offensive line's not good and the wide receivers aren't good. And so, that's why. But I mean, the offense kind of looked a little clunky last year too. And so I do think that, Drinkowitz went out and got an OC. Most good coaches understand, like, I can't call plays forever. Like, I need to go get an OC that can do this. And it can be somebody who's going to call the plays like he is, like, still run his system, his offense, and Mike will have plenty of input. But, yeah, I think that for all the one saving grace for Atkins is probably his recruiting. He's bringing in pretty high-level, talented guys. They're just not seeing the field. Like none of the, and I wouldn't expect the guys in this 24 class to be on the field yet, but like Simmons isn't on the field. Early has played a little bit with not very good results. Not that he was a super highly touted guy, Armella, like when are we going to start seeing the highly talented recruits that he's been bringing in, like make a difference? And so, yeah, I think offensive line development is absolutely a massive red flag question mark with this team and this roster right now. And I think, I don't think he's really doing a lot for you at OC because Mike probably needs to give that up. And so, yeah, I don't necessarily know if they, Atkins is certainly to me like a question. I don't necessarily know that, when I look at the roster of coaches, there are a lot of issues and, we can be very call a spade. Like, Atkins is probably one of the question marks. He's probably on the lower half of the list to me, but certainly still something that I think Mike should consider. I think Mike should get a real OC, like get an OC in to call plays and take that off of Norvell's plate. If Mike could have continued to do it with like the 2022 level of effectiveness, then yeah, probably would have never called for that. But I don't think that Mike, I mean, just the fourth down calls, like to run an injured quarterback out there twice on third and fourth and 1 and 2 and expect that to work. Like, I mean, I've been told DJ's been banged up, right? Like, so we tweeted about that, but like, guys obviously hobbled, that knee brace isn't on there just for fun, and yeah, I don't know. And it's not just that, like it's a lot of what's going on, but I mean, I'm in agreement on both of those. As far as him just overall, so your first question, sorry to be long-winded, certainly seems different. And I don't know if it's the snub. I don't know if it's, the reason why he's still playing certain guys, not just quarterback, the injury kind of forces your hand there, no pun intended. But yeah, like it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but at the same time, like, before SMU, I mean, you're 4 games into the season. And so maybe he thinks if he makes wholesale changes or goes complete youth movement, then you just lose the whole team. And what does that look like going through the rest of the year? I don't know. Like, he's probably juggling a lot of things. He's probably shell shocked at this moment. I'm sure the snub is still kind of like weighing on his mind. Maybe he's thinking like, I don't know. Maybe he's thinking, dang it, I should have taken that Bama job. I don't know. But yeah, he certainly looks different this year. And I don't know of any one specific thing behind the scenes, that'd be like some big reveal later. But I mean, I do think it's the culmination of a lot of crap over the last year. Oh, maybe James was just going to give us a thought and go. So anyway, yeah, those are my thoughts. Yeah, I like Alex Atkins, and I think that Harlan, you can throw James back in, and then we'll get Brett real quick if James had a follow-up to that. But yeah, I mean, I do think Alex is, I don't think there's a staff member at Florida State that is not above being questioned right now. Surtan's probably the one that is the most secure, but I mean, I think it's fair to question every single staff member that we've got. Look at the quarterback development. So yeah, Surtan's probably the safest, but I don't think there's anybody else that you could say like, oh my gosh, they're so safe that it's not even funny. All right, Harlan, let's get that super chat up and then let's get Brett on. Oh God. So Hunter Gray here. Sorry, I accidentally hit it too. Hunter Gray, I just play a noise for that, and then everybody can read it. I'm not reading that, but me and my
You're
homies,
fired.
man, I feel so bad for Morlock, but go ahead, do it again, Harlan.
You're fired.
Bro, I'm firing Harlan for playing that right now. Yeah, my honey, Morlock's struggling, and I mean, you saw Landon come in and make a big impact and make some nice plays, which was good to see. It was awesome to see. And then you're gonna have some true freshman mistakes too, which he also had some other stuff that wasn't great. All right, let's get Brett in. Brett, I appreciate you hanging out and waiting for a minute for us.
Okay, can you hear me? Is my microphone loud enough?
Yeah, you're good, man. How are you doing?
Okay, I'm doing fine. I just got two quick comments, and I will go back to YouTube and let y'all and get off of this and listen with YouTube.
Sure.
Mike keeps talking about people need to respond to adversity. We've all talked about what all the problems are from every line group, every specific position group. I'm tired of talking about it. It's Mike, it's your problem. Fix it. If I was offered, I would call him in and the conversation would be real simple. Mike, you got a problem. What are you going to do to fix it? And what do I need to do to help you fix it? I'm not talking about firing him. I'm not talking about anything, but we can talk about what he needs to do to fix it, how he needs to fix it. But it's his problem. I want to see him walk the walk, not just talk the talk about responding to adversity.
I mean, I think you're spot on that. Like, you can't tell me that like the standard is the standard. And I like Mike, right? Like, I'm not firing him. I'm not doing anything. I personally think Mike is like salt of the earth, really good person, right? Like, I hate to compare anybody to the guy that signed that football back there. But I do think that he's kind of like, as far as a human, like that, like a really good person. So I'm not trying to shit on Mike for that. But I do think that you cannot preach the standards of the standard and we get 1% better every day and we hold you to this accountability and this, that, and the other and work and effort and all those things and then justify keeping so many people on this staff that completely fail when it comes to either development or recruiting. I mean, and people will say like, oh, Mike, they don't even really care about recruiting like that. They don't care about high school recruiting. Yeah, that is such BS. Like they are in it for every big time player. They just fail at it, and the lack of accountability when it comes to the effort on the field, like you can't preach all those things. And this is a weird year and you get a boo-boo or you get an accident, but like, you're completely right. Like you can't preach all those things for 5 years and then accept mediocrity. And that's what he has done. And maybe 13-0 made it hard to fire people, whatever. Like
don't get me wrong. I think he can do it. I think he will fix it. I just don't know. I'm not in the locker room. I'm not in the coaches' meetings. I don't know specifically. I'm guessing from outside, but whatever you have to do, Mike, to fix it. I think he can. I think it's there's some other situations that would be too complicated to go into, but I've seen other coaches do it. So it's just time for him to do it. Now, the second question, I haven't heard anybody address this. Everybody's talking about portal, et cetera. How are teams going to go from 85 to 105 in scholarship without everybody going heavy on the portal? Are they just going to give walk-on scholarships?
I mean, I think it's going to trickle. I think you're going to a little bit. I think you're going to have some of your walk-ons that you can kind of convert over, some guys that you really like. But I think what you're going to see is you're going to continue to see a trickle from the lower tier programs, right? Like if you're a second stringer on, let's say, USF or UCF, would you rather be second on the depth chart there or third on the depth chart at Florida State, where you would have had to walk on at Florida? So you're like talented. So like, I don't think, and then I think it's probably the same thing, like the same trickle down. Like if you're second on the depth chart at Florida State, it's like a trickle up, I think. If you're second on the depth chart at Florida State, would you rather be second on the depth chart at Florida State or third on the depth chart at Ohio State, right? Like, so I think it'll trickle up. And so, Ohio State will just have more, like their fourth string will be the guys that would have been third string at Florida State or not, not apples to apples. Like, I don't think you just lose everybody up, but I do think you'll get some, you'll get some group of five talent. You'll get some, maybe a guy would have gone to Wake Forest and started, but he'll come be a backup for you. And so I do think that it'll essentially just rob the lower programs. Like that's what's going to happen.
High school, are we still going to be limited to 25 recruits from high school, or are they going to open that up this year for you can sign more than 25 to get up to the 105?
I haven't heard of any kind of increases on the scholarship limits. Or I'm sorry, on the number of kids you can sign from high school. Though I do think it would make sense, obviously, if you could increase that. But I just haven't looked at that or heard that at all. Although I don't think Florida State's going to be anywhere, specifically this year, close to that number, just with how many guys they have kind of around.
I appreciate it. I'll go back to YouTube and be watching. Thank you.
Brad, I appreciate you, man. Let's jump Caleb in real quick, Harlan, whenever you get a chance. Hey, if you guys want to call in, I will say this, it does work slightly better on a computer. You certainly can use a phone. If you jump on your phone, it is a little easier if you put do not disturb. If you're on an iPhone or just whatever, it can sometimes kind of be a pain. It can sometimes crash just a little bit on the phone. So come hang out if you want to call in. Link is in the description and in the comments. You can also DM me on Twitter if you need it. Caleb, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. How you doing, bud?
Good. I kind of wanted to get your opinion just because I know we talk a lot about development and things we haven't seen. And I mean, going from the end of last season with Brock back there and kind of what we saw this last week from him. I mean, not much has changed. Still seems very, jittery back there, and he's just unprepared. Um, so I don't see the development year by year and day to day. I kind of want to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, I don't think the plan was ever for. All right, I want to say this like in the nicest way possible, right? Like we're just going to call a spade on this show and not try and butter people up. So, sorry if this offends anybody. And again, nothing we say here is like a personal attack. But man, I don't think the plan was ever for Brock Glenn to play this year. And I know we all like hyped up of pulling him from Ohio State. I don't think Ohio State cared to lose him. I actually spoke with somebody last week when I was on a 3.5-hour drive from Nashville to Tuscaloosa, whatever. I was on the phone a little bit talking with people about different things. And first of all, I don't think Ohio State cared to lose him at all. I think that he was a 4-star on several sites, but probably the best in the industry, Charles Power, in rating him, had a 3-star on 3. And some of the people around Florida State and some of the people that work for different sites kind of said like, oh, well, on 3 is just trying to be different and trying to rate him lower to get clicks and this, that, and the other. And, maybe the truth was that he wasn't like some great 4-star quarterback that was going to come in and make a massive difference. And so the fact that, maybe a 3-star type talent, a high 3-star, like I'm not trying to just crap on him and say he just is absolutely terrible or sucks, but maybe a high 3-star talent shouldn't be starting at Florida State in year 2. Especially when year 1, he had a broken hand and didn't practice the entire year anyway, right? So the fact that I don't want to say reached for Brock Glenn, but the fact that like that was the best we could do, and maybe it should have been a little bit of a red flag that Ohio State didn't put up any fight at all, and maybe it should have been a little bit of a red flag that, the best ratings guy in the industry, Charles Power, who was at 247 and then went to On3, had him rated the lowest. Not that On3's ratings are infallible or anything like that, but maybe those should have been red flags, and maybe that should tell us, hey, we shouldn't be relying on a guy that is a redshirt freshman that was hurt for most of his freshman season to carry us at this point. Like, I don't think there was any, you could send him to the best QB developer in the country, and I don't necessarily know that Brock Glenn would be ready to play for Florida State University at this point in his career. Brock Glenn was probably the kind of guy that was going to need 2 to 3 years in a system and then be a pretty good quarterback for you. Well, you over-recruited Brock Glenn anyway. You went and got Luke, who is has a significantly higher ceiling and probably is going to develop much faster. I hear the gap between Luke and Brock is much closer than the gap between Brock and DJ. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all if Brock played a few games and then Luke played Charleston Southern in Florida, and I'm not saying that there's no inside info. Like I haven't been told that, but yeah, I do think there is a question around development. I think there's probably a bigger question around the quarterback takes that we've had. It's hard to blame Mike for the COVID year of Chubba and Tate because he was in for like 3 weeks before he ended up having to sign a class. So you get a pass there. Duffy was a misevaluation, but again, that was a COVID evaluation. So you missed on Duffy. And then after that, you took Brock, who Ohio State didn't care to lose at all. Now, you recruited somebody really, really, really good in this class, who I think Luke will be good. But yeah, I don't even know if it's as much of a development problem at Florida State as it is Brock probably wasn't good enough to play quarterback at FSU. Like maybe I'd love to be wrong on that. I'd love for him to come out and just ball out this year. I'd love for him to prove me wrong and go win a Heisman next year. But I think when all the dust settles, we'll probably find out that, he probably, we don't recruit 3-star quarterbacks at FSU. Like that's just what it is at the end of the day, right? No amount of development is going to turn that 3-star into an All-American, in my opinion. So that's my take on Brock, right? That's not me trying to crap on him. I'm sure that people get upset with that take, but I think that's somewhat fair. Like he's probably just not as good as we had hoped.
Yeah, I can get behind that absolutely.
And that's not me trying to take. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say that, even the way he carries himself when he's playing. Like he looks like to me, for lack of a better word, like a bull in a china shop. Like he doesn't look comfortable, doesn't know where to go, um, and and it seems like he's grasping at straws. I mean, for me as a fan, it's hard to watch.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's not, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not an enjoyable product right now. Like whether it's, Brock or DJ or anybody, like it's not super fun. And that's not me trying to like take blame away from the staff. I'm just reassigning the blame. Like it's not a development problem, it's a recruiting problem. Although, yeah, I mean, you still would like him to be a little further along than he is. But at the end of the day, like he got hurt last year. He's been taking backup reps he took third string reps when he wasn't hurt last year because he was behind Tate too. And so like, man, how much, and if you kind of look at it from the premise of like, he probably wasn't like an elite quarterback anyway, what do you really expect from Brock? Or like, what do you expect from the coaches to be able to develop him, when he's not that good? And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's going to come out and just light Clemson up. I'm not super hopeful in that, but it's just, you probably haven't recruited as well as you wanted to, and that to me, that's where it all comes down to. It all just comes down to players. And you can blame anything or everything else, but like you just got to get better players in. And if Florida State does that, they'll be fine. If they don't, then we'll find a new coach who does.
So one last question,
Sure.
completely unrelated to that. I just looking at the depth chart, maybe I don't understand it as well as I do, but every time I look, they have Cam Davis as RB1. And don't get me wrong, I know a few years down the line that dude's going to be a stud. I mean, just a really great athlete. But so far this year, to me, Tophili has looked a lot better. More yards. The last two games, he's gotten significantly more touches. His ability to find the hole versus Cam Davis is very apparent, going back and kind of watching the plays. But I just don't understand why we keep putting Cam Davis as RB1 and Tophili as RB2. I don't know if there's, supposed to be, building confidence for Cam or kind of what that is. But what's kind of your take on that?
Yeah. So I think I'm looking it up real quick. But I think, like they're both, Cam is listed first, but I think they're both listed as like RB1. If I'm trying to look it up real fast. Here, I found a link for it. But I do think they're both listed there. Where like they start two running backs essentially. And Cam is like the first one listed, but it's not like a RB1, RB2. Like they just have two running back starters. For example, Hakeem is the first wide receiver listed, but then Ja'Kai and Malik are also listed as wide receiver starters. And I don't think that's like in any particular order. So, to maybe give Mike a little credit or give him a little slack, like they feature Tophili more. Like I wouldn't read into the fact that they have two different running backs. I mean, it literally could just be like Davis starts with a D and Tophili starts with a T, right? And that's how they have them listed. So I wouldn't read too much into that. I think they're going to continue to give to me, I don't really care who's listed as a starter, even if it was RB1, RB2. They're going to give Tophili more runs because he's just running more effectively. On Cam specifically, like I agree. I think later on he'll be in a much better position. I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I'm going to get it off right now because that's just the way that we feel. I don't know if Cam is almost a little bit too big, like needs to shed just a little bit, and I know that's kind of crazy, but like, I don't know that he needs to be like bigger than Greg Jones to like run effectively, right? Like I think it's hard to carry that much weight and not lose a little bit of your just shiftiness, just a little bit of your quickness. Again, not trying to have a hot take saying that I don't think, look, even like fullbacks and stuff that we've had, like he's bigger than a lot of them. Like he's not quite as big as like Chad Abram. Like he's bigger than like Lonnie Pryor or even like James Coleman was back in the day. So I don't know. I kind of agree with you that he doesn't look like he's ready. Like Dalvin was ready by this point of his freshman year. But I also think that like having him at RB2 is completely fine because I don't really trust the guys behind him now that Roydell's out. So, and I know that people like Singleton or like Keziah or this, that, and the other, but as far as the depth chart, I wouldn't read too much into it. But as far as him running, yeah, like I think, against SMU, he had 2 carries, so no matter where he's listed, like I wouldn't read so much into like all of that. Like they're going to give Toafili the rock way more times. As far as Cam himself, he could probably shed just a little bit, in my opinion, and be completely fine. So that's my take on that. All right, let's get Tony in. Let me give. I'm not missing any like super chats or anything over here, Harlan, am I? But let's get again, Decadent, a coffee and dessert bar, Fulton, Maryland, Warner Robins, Georgia, Modesto, California. I connected a couple of you with Patrick last week. If you have any interest in connecting with Patrick for any kind of business, they do a lot to support our vets and do a lot to support our military. Hit me up, and I'm more than happy to connect you. My email is tj@doublefriesnoslaw.com. Pretty easy to remember. Or you can hit me on social media, and I am more than happy to get you connected. All right, Tony, you in here?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hey, man, how are you doing?
You hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, man, thanks for inviting me out here, man. I watch your show all the time. I feel we've gotten to the point now where we've got to just at least give one more chance, at least another year. But I think it's Norvell is kind of the issue. I mean, we can't go into this off season. Spring and summer we were like supposed to be the best thing since sliced bread. Even Nick Saban said that, and now all of a sudden we're nowhere near a high school bad team. I mean, how does that happen? It comes down to leadership. And I kind of feel like all this money that's just everywhere is just kind of dampered the NCAA and the way things used to be. I mean, I remember going to Tallahassee for those games, and there was passion from the players, from the coaches, from the fans. We were united. And we've kind of lost that. And I know now it's a business and we need to move forward, and I get it. But I think it's going to start off with coaching. I mean, how is Norvell going to move forward with what he's got? Is he going to be comfortable with firing people? We obviously know he's got an issue with benching players. I mean, DJ should have been benched from the beginning, but that's a part of coaching that's being a part of a CEO. You have to learn how to be able to sit people down and move forward. And I don't feel that he's got that trait yet. I don't know. What do you think? I mean,
yeah, I don't think I don't know. I hope so. I don't have a lot. I mean, I do think he'll make changes this year, but I don't think it's his personality at all. Like even when he has moved on from guys, like he's never fired anybody that I'm aware of. Like he's always just like helped guys get better jobs. Right. And that's fine. I think that, but I think that he struggles to do that even with like telling guys to like trimming the fat on the roster. Right. Like there are several guys that like, if we're just being honest, like probably shouldn't be on this roster right now. Like I'm not trying to be a jerk, but there are some guys on this roster that like probably should have been told to hit the road in spring. Just weren't good enough.
yeah.
We don't have to call them out. Like I'm not trying to be a jerk on this. I've already called out enough people that's probably, I've probably hit my quota for the day. But I think that, it was told to me that like XYZ, like, yeah, he's going to have an exit interview and we're probably going to ask him, probably going to move on. And then like, I think those guys get in the room with Norvell and he's got such a good, like, I do think he's a good person. I think he's got a good heart. That like those guys get in the room and they're like, Coach, I'm behind into the climb and I want to be here. Because would you honestly, like, would you rather be a backup on Florida State's team or would you rather be a backup like somewhere else lower in the ACC? Like, yeah, there's a lot of benefits of being in Tallahassee. It's a nice place to live and be a football player, right? Like, so I don't even blame the players. And so,
yeah, I agree. I agree with that point too. You'd rather be at Florida State, but remember, the game has changed. We're the ones that bleed garden and gold. This new world, these kids don't remember what we were. They don't care.
I think it goes back to the larger point of like, I think Norvell's kind of struggles to I don't know. Like Jimbo was a jerk at times, man. Like, and Jimbo was like, I met Jimbo several times. Like, he's always been super nice to me. I took my parents to a game and introduced him one time, and he like literally was like, ask about, so where are you guys from? Like, tell me, like, thank you guys for coming. Like, to like after the national title, like I think it was like 2016. Like, you know, as big of a jerk as Jimbo could be, like he was still like personable, right? Like, I'm not trying to like crap all over him too, but you know, hey, where are you guys from? Tell me about yourself. Thank you so much for coming this weekend. Like the coach telling one of 90,000 people, like, thank you for coming. But anyway,
He was a
but Norvell is,
CEO,
but he was not afraid. He was not afraid to like, now, you know, Jimbo held on to some coaches too long too. Like, don't get me wrong, but like
Well, I
Jimbo
think he
wasn't
went
afraid to
through.
fire somebody. Like he
Didn't he
would
go
fire
through
somebody.
Didn't we go through 3 defensive coordinators with him?
Yeah, I mean, most of those guys were like getting better jobs. So I mean, I don't give him credit for that. But like but he wasn't afraid to fire people or tell people like get out of the program. Like you're not cut out for this. And I think Norvell struggles to do that because he's almost too nice of a guy, right? Like I like him. I think it's good that he's a nice guy. I don't want another jerk, but like you got to have a little bit of that in you to like, hey man, and that's what it ends up being. Like if Norvell won't make the changes, it won't be those guys' jobs. It'll be his job. And most coaches understand that. Some struggle to. I think Norvell does understand that. And I do think he'll make changes. My concern is, will he make enough? Like if he just fires Randy Shannon and Ron Dugans, just 2 random names, I have no inside info, and that's all he does, like that ain't enough. You know, we'll be in the same spot that we were last year. And I know that I'm not trying to upset people with this. I don't necessarily think that he should just elevate Ernie Sims. You know, like Sims got fired from UC or not retained at UCF. You know, like they let his contract run out and they said, yeah, we're good. And so like, I don't even know that. And I love Sims, the player. I just, you know, I think Norvell needs to make pretty big changes and go out and get, I mean, Sims doesn't want to recruit either. I think he'll recruit better than Randy, but like, I don't know that that's necessarily the best decision we could make. But yeah, if he just fires 2 people and moves on, like, I just don't think that's enough. So, but yeah, I don't know. Is he going to do it? I hope so. Cause if not, he's not going to make it more than another year or 2 after this one.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And then I've, to be proactive, you start to follow the top 3 teams that are consistently up there in the last 4 or 5 years. You got your Georgias, your Michigans, and your Alabamas and your Ohio States. Those guys are always up on top. Who are their top consistent coordinators that they know the system, they're going to know how to move forward, they know how the system works to be successful, and bring in a guy like that, and say, hey, let's give this a shot. I mean, they did, Clemson, Oklahoma just did it with Vrabel from Clemson, right? Didn't they recruit their coordinator? I mean, their defense was amazing for many years. They won a lot of national championships with them. Go out there, get a guy who has done it before, who's been there before. Jimbo had done it before. He knows the formula. Yes, we like him or hate him. He left us. I get it. But he understood the formula. They understood under that Nick Saban umbrella. I feel like the fans are slowly coaching Norvell on how to become a CEO. This is Florida State. It's St. Memphis. You know what I mean?
You mentioned those Clemson coordinators and stuff, and I'll say it's pretty rare for a guy like Venables to stick around for so long, like he did at Clemson. But even when he was sticking around, like I think it's so damning to this staff that nobody tried to steal any of our staff last year. Like we went 13-0, and well, I'm sorry, they did want Surtain, like Georgia and other places like wanted to get Pat. But other than that, like you went 13-0, and nobody wanted any of your staff. Like that, and Mike Norvell, and of course, what's he going to say? Like, I mean, our staff was so terrible that nobody wanted any of it. Of course, he's not going to say that. But I think that, he spun it as like, well, the continuity is really good, and we're one of the few staffs in the country that can. And even then, I was saying like, man, that ain't. I mean, sure, that's good for the returning guys that are on the. I'm sure they like having their coaches back, but that ain't a good thing, man. Like Jimbo had to replace 6 coaches from the 2012 team. He replaced 6 coaches and still went out and won a national championship. Like that's absurd. Yeah. And good coaches have to replace staff. Like, do you know how many guys? You know how many like The most impressive thing to me about Nick Saban is that he probably had to make like 100 hires in his time at Alabama because his staff just kept getting rated over and over and over and over again. And
Yeah.
more impressive than the recruiting, maybe not more impressive than the championships because like that is ridiculous. But like the most impressive thing to me about Saban that people don't talk about is how he consistently hired well. He knew what he was looking for, and he hired well over and over and over and over again. And he wasn't perfect. Like, he made mistakes. He screwed up. And when he did, he fired that guy immediately. You got 1 year under Saban, and if it wasn't up to the standard, you were gone. He didn't care what the buyout was. He didn't care. And so Saban was the go at so many things: recruiting, demanding excellence, building a program, all those things. But the way that he was able to hire over and over and over, that wasn't even really something that Bobby had to do. Like, because Mickey stayed forever, right? Like, and you had coaches just stay forever. And to me, that's like the most impressive thing that Saban did was he just hired well over and over and over and over again. Yeah. And we're not even asking Mike to do it over and over again. Just do it once. Just do it one time for me, Mike, and I'll be happy.
I know. Well, it's so true. You know, back in the day, you had, Chuck Amato, Mickey Andrews, and Bobby Bowden.
Yeah, sticking around
forever. Now it's become more of a business. It's a CEO. You got to learn how to sit in that office and you break down your departments, your divisions, and who comes, who goes. Test out your percentages, who's doing better, who's not, and you got to learn how to just say, hey, we got to go find somebody else. Like you said, Nick Saban, his pedigree is all over college football. And they're all doing fantastic. They're all doing great. They know how to recruit. He's like, hey, man, here's a playbook. Go make it happen. Go Noles. Like I said, I travel I live in D.C., and I'll be down there this weekend for Clemson. I'll be at Duke. I'll be at Notre Dame. I'll be at most of home games. And I'm always going to cheer on the Noles. And but let's see what happens. I think we need to play the young guys, man. Let's get some of these young guys reps. Obviously, I understand the whole red shirting thing and all that. But if you kind of balance that out, everybody can get some reps and we can kind of see where we're headed from here. And then in the next year or two, we can just evaluate and see what we need to do. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think the season is pretty lost, but man, try to evaluate for the future. Get the young guys some reps so that they stick around. I know there are questions of who may jump, who. I mean, they're going to have a heck of a job trying to retain some of this roster, and the guys you want to keep right for the future. And they're going to have to go to the portal again because their recruiting class isn't very big this year, and so you got to start to figure it out for sure.
You go to the portal and you got to get like at least 5 awesome positions. Get an amazing tackle, a guy that can just completely dominate. You get an end, another incredible Jermaine Johnson or Verse. Got to definitely get that quarterback. Of course, you're going to need that quarterback. And if Brock leaves, then he leaves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you have to sit and then go talk to Luke, and Trevor, say, guys, this is what we need to do to build. And then the rest of the money just kind of go in there and disperse it, I guess, to business now. It's hard for an old guy like me to understand this whole thing, but you got to go bring in at least those 5 guys and definitely one monster linebacker. Oh my gosh, we need help at linebacker. I mean, I love that. Look, I love Nicholson, man. He's a young kid. He's going to be good, but things are just flying all over the place for him. And then there's just the chemistry's kind of lost back there a little bit, I feel. DJ, and then Riley, I think Cam. That it's just different, and I think they need more experience, to be honest with you. So
yeah, no, I agree. They need to hit. They certainly need to. They need to hit better in the portal this year for sure. And if they don't, it's probably going to be another long season. And we'll see. Maybe maybe Luke can come out and play next year. I don't know like exactly where his development is, but you would hope that you could get something out of him. And if you can, you'll be in a lot better shape. If you can't, your portal guy better come in and be pretty elite. So, man, Tony, I appreciate you.
Awesome, man. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. I hope to see you around campus. I always watch your show. Double fries, baby.
I appreciate it, man. Hit me up on social. I may be in town this weekend too. So I don't know what social media you have, but hit me up.
Yeah, I got a place in some of the Legends. We come down for the games, and we're right there on Hayden.
Awesome.
So I'll invite you over for some tailgate.
I'm
Awesome,
with
guy.
it. Thanks, Tony.
Definitely, brother. Awesome. Go Noles.
Go Noles, buddy. All right. I saw some pretty good questions. All right, so I don't have any names specifically, but I did see a question on, and we'll do this for a couple more minutes and we'll jump. And listen, there's just too many comments to jump through all of them. I'm really not trying to make any money on this, and YouTube takes like 70% of it anyway. So if you have something that needs to be answered, like do it like $1 or $2 super chat, and I'll answer it. Again, not trying to make money. I don't really care. YouTube takes like 70 cents on the dollar, so I'm not making anything. But if you have something that really needs to get answered here in the next 5-10 minutes, then do it that way, and I'll try and answer it. I did see a question about are you worried about certain players using their red shirt, jumping in the portal, and then transferring? I mean, maybe a little bit. I know we saw that from, the UNLV kid. I know we saw that from, Barry Alexander. That really hasn't been like a phenomenon all over college football, right? Like you saw that. I mean, and with most of college football, like most people have already played 4 games. I know there are some on our roster that have not played 4 games. It's not something I'm super, super worried about. Also, like, unless you're a quarterback or a lineman, I don't really think that redshirting matters. Like how many, if you're Hakeem Williams, you were a 5-star. Like, are you really are you going to play that extra year? Does it matter? So I don't know. You might as well go get the reps and try and get better to if you're going to transfer to finish up, So I don't know. There's nobody on the top of my mind that I'm really, really worried about with that. I guess we'll see here in the next week or so. I don't know how many people have played less than 4 games that you would be concerned about that with. I guess we could look them up real quick and see. Hakeem was one that was mentioned just on the in the comments. Game logs. I know he was hurt some, but is he really going to play 3 more years anyway? I don't know. I don't know that I'm super worried about that. So he's already played 3. If he plays against Clemson this weekend, obviously, that'll be his 4th game, right? So it would be, well, does he do it going into the bye week? I don't know. Not something I'm super worried about. I don't think there's anybody on this. Roydell Williams, if he does, I don't care. That doesn't bother me at all. But yeah, and if they do, then great, man. That's probably not the kind of player you want on the team anyway, right? And I'm not one that is oh man, well if they're not bleeding garnet and gold, if they're not part of the tribe, then who cares? But honestly, if that's the kind of player and you got to convince him to come back, we've already played that convince him to come back game. Let them go. And I'm not saying anybody on this team is, but if that's the kind of player, let the cancers go. Let the people that are going to do that go. Because that's not the kind of mind. If that, I saw that Circus Sports was offering $100,000 for that quarterback to come back to UNLV. What no, who would want him back now? It's not about the money. It's about bringing that back into your locker room, right? Screw that kid. Whether he's right or wrong or whatever, you can't let that back into your locker room after you've made a public embarrassment of the university. So yeah, if somebody wants to go, let him go. Who cares? And that's not directed at any one person. That is literally everyone on the team. If you can't get held hostage again. The standard is the standard. If guys have better years and they want an increase in NIL, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. Doing it publicly over social media, that ain't it, right? If a player wants to go to Mike Norvell and say hey, next year for me to stick around, I'm going to need this. Great, that's fine. Holding people if they're going to be a drama queen about it, let them go. Let them move on. So. Is there anybody I'm worried about with that? No, there's no name specifically, but I don't care who it is. If they want to do that, then they can go. They can go on to Colorado or wherever they want to go and enjoy the time out there. So, all right, that's all I really have for today. Again, really good numbers. Appreciate Decadent, a coffee and dessert bar, for their support. Getting real close to being able to get you guys some coffee, get you guys some stuff, get you taken care of with them. I made myself a mug with their logo on it. So again, shout out Decadent for their support. Hey, I'm teetering on the thought of coming up for Clemson and doing a tailgate, but I'm not doing it for I don't even know how well attended the game is going to be. I'm going to do another video talking about fan support soon. Maybe we'll do that Wednesday night on the preview show for Clemson, but I would love to hear if you guys are coming up for that Clemson game. So hit me up on social media if you're coming up and you have any interest in tailgating at all. I'll throw the tailgate. We'll figure it out. but I need to see what like some support level was. I'm not doing it for 8 people. Sorry. So if you're coming to the game and you want to hang out, Clemson fan or not, you're welcome to come and hang out. Let me know. Hit me up on social media and let's talk. A game day vlog. Dude, you just want to watch me cry, huh? I don't know about a game day vlog, man. Maybe next year. Maybe Charleston Southern will do a game day vlog, bro. That would be kind of fun, though. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. All right, hit me up on social media if you're coming to the Clemson game. Let's talk about a tailgate. I appreciate, again, Decadent for their support. Love you guys for tuning in. We'll continue to do this every Tuesday. We'll do call-ins for as long as you guys want. I think you guys have liked the call-ins. It's been a lot of fun to chat with you guys. I appreciate you guys a ton for all the support. As always, we'll have another video coming out later today. Hopefully you guys will enjoy that. We'll talk to you soon. Go Noles.